Hey guys, welcome to today's live stream. I'm Gabriel, publishing manager here at Voodoo.
And I'm Theo, also publishing manager. It's great to be here today.
All right, so after last week's live stream about Flip Dunk, today we're going to start a different subject, which is kind of a recap of recent and less recent games we've published around the variety you can offer in your gameplay. Just a quick side note, this does not replace your core game loop. The idea would be to add a little twist to it that can highly leverage your retention. So let's jump into it. All right. As you know, the market has been maturing. There's more and more competition. And we've noticed lately, not only in the top charts, but in our releases, that we've been looking much deeper into each game to find a little twist on mechanics you can bring to your game. So we made 3 categories. The first and most important would be level design, the second would be different objectives, and the third would be mechanics. I'll jump right into the first. First of all, sticky blocks with a very strong day 1 retention. You'll notice in the level design, we start with very static obstacles. The idea here is we're still in a classic left-right swipe runner with a pretty cool mechanic, which is, you stick blocks and you avoid other ones. The idea was, how do you introduce something slightly different to the game? Very important note. When you do decide to add a different mechanic to your game, you have to introduce it alone. You don't want to mix different mechanics, and you want to bring it with some slight onboarding every time you do it. In this case, please watch the second frame. The game designer here decided to add not only the stable obstacles, but one that had a slight physical element to it. The way it's introduced, you'll see, is you have to touch it. There's no way around it. So you have to interact with that object. You discover its mechanic, physical, and from this, you decide to interact with it differently. This offers a huge leverage on retention. Different ways of playing, and most importantly, it keeps the player guessing what's going to happen next. I think you all remember Bloxbuster from H8. What a great game, satisfying, very rewarding, YouTubeable, and fun to watch. The very smart thing H8 decided to do here is we're starting with a basic interaction. So it's a joystick, left, right, up, down. You swallow little pieces of, well, let's say golden bricks. This is the first interaction. After a few levels, they introduce different mechanics. So here, should pop up right now, you'll notice this type of bowl or recipient. They'll add that, they'll add bombs, they'll add moving bombs. They introduce them slowly, bit by bit, and one at a time. And then they start merging them, which would be the third slide. Bombs, keys, which is more meta, so we're not going to talk about that, and the bowl. As you combine these, you're not forced to combine them. You can also add them one by one. But it'll keep the player interacting differently with your core loop.
Right, now regarding the objectives. Again, let's keep in mind that these objectives are more intermediate objectives rather than like the main objective. So again, you still have to focus on your core loop, but in order to make it even more engaging and satisfying, you can add these kind of intermediate objectives. So you'll see, for example, that in a purple diver, that you have this flipping mechanic. Again, it's the same input, and basically the longer you hold, the more flips you're gonna do, right? The objective here, like the main core loop, is still to make the best and the most precise dive possible, right? And to go as deep as possible. But by introducing this, the flipping mechanic, and combining it with the diving one, you get a game that's much deeper and that has much more variety, right? Because you have several ways of playing it, and you actually cater to people that really like skill-based games. And again, you have a better basically gaming experience because it feels more complete. In a single loop, you feel like you're doing much more than in other games. We have another example similar to this one that you'll probably remember Flip Dunk from the previous live stream. So as you remember, the core loop again was pretty simple, pretty satisfying, just to make a dunk and make the best dunk possible. Now to that, they first added the flip part to the dunk mechanic, and basically you can imagine that with just a flip or the flip part, you can add so much variety to the game with very little effort, right? Because once you've introduced the flip, well, you can make so many variations of it, level with where you can do one flip, two flips, dozens of flips, and basically that gives you a super wide array of different levels. Again, this is a very little effort that has a major impact. By adding just this little detail, it adds so much variety to the game and to the whole experience.
Jumping into the third part, and I want to make myself very clear, we do not want very complicated controls. That is not the point of this live stream. But here are two cases where a small twist on that core mechanic made the game really, really interesting. So the first one would be Go-Go, a fantastic game with a strong retention. The idea here is you'll have first a joystick control. There's actually, it's pretty simple to understand, but when the second mechanic comes, and by the way, there's no tutorial for that. The player has to guess because he's seen the ad or someone else play. There's the swipe control, which allows him to complete the levels much faster, not even bother with interacting with other players. And you can, in fact, this has been A/B tested and validated, control the ball in the air. So you still have this kind of joystick control while you're in the air. I would prefer to put out a word of warning. We do not want to see two-finger controls, portrait mode controls. This is not the point. It's simply an example to show you that a small twist can bring a lot and a lot of variety and depth into your game. And to finish, a good old classic Aquapark. I think we've talked it a lot, maybe too much. But you still have the classic left-right runner mechanic, which are basically running parallel to your current position relative to the slide. And of course, what really brought the twist to it was that flying mechanic where the control is the same left-right, but the consequence on your player isn't the same. You're actually pivoting as you move forward in the air. And that's really what created the depth for that game, the variety, and different interactions you can have with the terrain, but also with the players. Maybe we can wrap this up.
So again, a very important reminder: do not try to add variety just for the sake of it. Again, in most of the examples, in all the examples that we've shown you, let's take Flip Dunk again. You see that it's one single detail that opens up so many possibilities, but the details originally is really minimal, right? So basically, adding this kind of variety is really going to strengthen your day 7 retention and the overall stickiness of your retention. The other side benefit of it is that once you try to add variety, whether it's through level design or additional mechanics or stuff like that, it really emphasizes your core loop and its strength and weaknesses. If by adding, I don't know, a second obstacles or another mechanic, you feel that like what you've added is actually much more enjoyable than the original stuff, then you can adjust your core loop accordingly. If it's only a nice addition, a nice plus, but it really emphasizes how engaging and how satisfying your core loop is, then you'll know that you're on the right tracks and you're basically adding the right kind of variety.
Thanks.